Okay, so I'm recording this um just later in the afternoon. So I'm just gonna go over homework. And homework was basically just going over some tickers, how to draw zones basically. So we're just gonna start with Costco. Um, and again, I covered this a lot, how to draw my zones. Your zones may be different, but overall, if we're looking at the same chart, it won't really matter. And so, just looking at Costco's chart, I drew this a long time ago, but I don't mind drawing this again. I think I had a position in Costco, and I was thinking, okay, we may move out of the purple zone, but after looking at it, I was made the right call to cut my decision to cut Costco in this purple zone before my contracts had live data burn. I took a hit on that. I admit I was wrong. I lost like 400, but it was a really small position. But overall, let's just draw Costco. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna delete all this. We're gonna delete all these lines on Costco. We're gonna move all the drawings, and we're gonna start from scratch. So I'm still on the 4 hour right now, but usually what I do, I always want to go on the monthly. So I'm looking at the monthly, and usually when I start, I want to start maybe like way back 2018. So on the monthly count chart, I see this area right here as a support, monthly support. So we can draw another one, maybe around this area too. So we draw another one because this was a resistance at one point, and then it came out as a support. So we have this zone established right here. And we have some zones established right here on this top of these candles. So these act as a monthly support and a resistance. So that's a really big area. So we always want to do all-time highs. Usually when we do all-time highs, I usually have to make that as a different candle. Different color. So usually what I usually do yellow. So I just do a different type of yellow since I have yellow for something else. And then I go peel back the layers and I go on the weekly candles. So the weekly candles, I also want to do a different color. So I always draw it green. So as a green color, now I know that I established this area right here is another zone. This right here, just looking at it, this is one zone right here. So we can see there was a lot of fighting and consolidation right there. So that tells me that there was a lot of buyers and sellers in this area. And then we want to look and we want to take another quick glance, but we see another zone right here. So right here in this area right here, I see that there was a lot of resistance and support being built up before we pushed up. So that counts as a zone. And then on the daily chart, we have to find it basically. So Costco, it's a pretty nice stock to trade. Just have to find it. So right here, I see on the daily chart this area right here. I'm gonna make this red as a daily resistance. So the daily resistance is this area before we pushed up. So we also want to establish right here, this area right here is a zone, but we can also move up this candle right here. So we can move it up right here because this was a resistance at one point and now it's acting as support. So in this fact, we can draw a zone right here. and then we're going to make this as a yellow zone. So reestablish right here, this is a yellow zone. So yellow means it's a demand zone. So we might have buyers in this area. If this changes, as this zone changes, as in like the market's going to be selling off, I'm going to look if we test a zone, and if we pull back more, I'm going to look to if we ever retest this zone right here. So this is a really strong support because how many times we consolidated in this number area. So I'm going to be looking for that as a place where I might be buying for Costco. But right now, I don't think I will be playing earnings because, yeah, the market's not really sure. We're pretty much making a bear flag on Costco. So if I draw a trend line right here, I just draw a triangle. We touched this area of support, basically. So this area has been touched as a support, but usually when I do these, I have to draw it on the 4 hour. So we're peeling back layers. We're going to go on the 4 hour chart, and then on the 4 hour chart, this is where I use a different color. So I usually have to do a purple. So a purple zone. This zone right here acts as a support and a resistance. So on a daily time frame, I'm just peeling these back and I'm looking at this. I'm going to make this a light purple. So purple zone, this is a resistance. This is the supply zone, basically. Where we kind of tapped right here, we tapped this area, but look, this is more a bigger, stronger support that we're looking into buying. So let's move this area, and then we're just going to draw it like right this. I'm just adjusting and trying to see where I can buy. So if we break out of this trend line right here, then we are looking to see if it tests this zone right here. So market's full of supply and demand. You don't have to think much of it. We have a tough time getting over the resistance right now at 347. And so I want to look to get back into Costco when the EMAs cross to make the 50. So if all the 8 and 20 and 50 are above the lines, like the 50 has crossed on the 2 hour, and the 8 and the 20, that is a bullish sign. That's a bullish trend. Right now, it's showing us that this is a bearish reversal. So when we see that, if we go back on Costco's chart, anytime we kind of make a bearish reversal, when the 20 and the 50 across, we're going to make a lot of chop areas. The 200 EMA is catching up with all the other ones. So the 8 and 20 and 50. So usually I just look at the 1 hour to check, but it's making the depth hook on 1 hour. So we might be bearish, and when we're going to be tapping Costco for short. So Costco, I know there's some people holding Costco long. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I cut Costco. But doesn't mean I'm bitter about Costco. I like Costco, but we're gonna have to play it smart in times of when volatility is high. But again, it also comes with, if you have leaps, that's okay. So another ticker I have that we could do, it's a new one that just IPO'd today. I mean this year. So Albertsons is another grocery store. Albertsons is kind of big in my area. So it looks like we're gonna try to look at a monthly candle. And, you know, being this one really hard, it's pretty difficult for me to tell, like, where is a resistance, because it just IPO'd. And this is why I want to get into that. So, you know, on the weekly, we can just do this. So we can just do a weeklies for now. Because we don't have that much information of this one. So we're just going to take the top of these candles and then draw it from there. So we're just going to do it like that. So for now, we just have only that information compared to the daily. So the daily is a downtrend right now. So we have, if we're looking to short this, we only have the 20 and the 8. So right now it's a bearish trend. The 50 EMA is about to form. There is no 200 EMA. So we're just going to say this is the low of this candle. So we're just going to say this one's red for now. And then we're going to establish another area. So right here, here, and this area right here. So this one's kind of tough, but we can see we have to go down to the 4 hour just to get more information. And right there, we have more information on the 4 hour than the daily and the weekly or the monthly. So I always want to look for more information, basically. So we want to do is that we're going to find an area where we kind of bounced, and then we had an area of support. So this area right here that I'm drawing on the 4 hour time frame, we're going to make this purple right now, because this is a resistance. This is not a valid supply zone, because this is not a good demand zone, because we're right here, we rejected right here, and the sell side indicator indicated that we're going to be selling off no more. But we did bounce, so this is a valid zone right here, because we bounced off right in this area right here. Another area that's pretty strong and it's serving as a supply zone is this upper area. So anytime we were in this area, there's buyers taking this down to all the way to this level. We might see Albertsons to go lower. So we'll see where you can buy this ticker. I mean, they have a good balance sheet, so I believe in them. So we can see future if they bounce off here, because we have a hammer candle right here on the 4 hour, signaling that this may be a trend change, but we have to see. And the deal with hammers is that they can signal a buy. Next one on the list, TSM. So this ticker right here, this was a very long consolidation. So let's delete the zones I have, and then we're gonna go start with the monthlies again. So TSM. So looking way back here, I see we're gonna go do this. We're gonna draw another horizontal line, and we're just gonna make this a area where we had buyers and sellers. So in this area right here, and right here on the monthly chart. Okay, and then so we had buyers right here, just gonna move this up, try to get closer to the wicks of these candles. There, I don't draw the upper wicks, like this area right here on TSM, because this, I don't like to include like upper wicks. I just like to be close as much as possible to the candles. So, you know, you can see right here, this consolidation for a month before we had a push. So we have another one right here. And so this establishes another range right here, and we can look at. So we can also see this is a big zone right here, because this is we had a lot of consolidation before we pushed up. Another thing is that because we retested this support, this monthly support, and we touched it, the trend for this one has bounced off of this support, basically. So that has explained this massive move up, because we have buyers right there in this area right here. So let's make a zone right here. So we're going to make this as a supply zone. So this is going to be yellow. So once we take an upper wick of something, you just want to check if they test a previous resistance. And so I would not consider this area a valid zone until I start peeling back the layers. So I'm going back on the weekly, and I can see right here this is a valid zone. So this one right here, we're going to make these a green. So greens are for weeklies and blues for monthly. And in this zone right here, they're also buyer. This was a resistance, and now it back tested, and we're back here. Now it is support. Every time we tested a resistance, we always want to check if they test it again and we break out, and so that acts as a support. So this area right here is a demand zone. In this area right here on the weekly, I consider this as a zone because of the consolidation. On the weekly chart, this does not look that great because there's a huge spinning top candle. So it didn't really complete and we sold off. So that one doesn't look very nice to me. But we also have gaps to fill. So if you look right here, TSM has this little gap right there that one day has to get filled on the weekly time frame. So if you follow my videos, I usually take a different color. So I usually put a white if there's a gap. And so I always want to label that as a gap to be filled. So let's label this gap. Gap. Right there. We're going to label that as a gap. Okay. And then we're going to go into the daily chart. So this is too wide now. So we're going to be shrinking this now. Okay, so we're just going to take it from the daily approach. So it really will help us. So right there, this is a daily support, and then it also was a resistance at one point. So we're going to make it a red color. And then another one right here, we're going to another red color. So this is a zone. We want to establish this area as another red color because this was an area that we found buyers and sellers, and we consolidate really in this area before we pushed up. The weekly time frame for this is probably really messy. That's why it looks like this one would be really hard to draw on the daily time frame, but if we try, we can also see that this horizontal line was a resistance, and before we kind of pushed up to make a new all-time high before we back tested this upper area. So now we're just going to go back to the 4-hour, and then we're just trying to see, and then we're going to mark all-time highs as a yellow. So our yellow color. And so we're in this area right now. So we're in this area right now. This is probably going to be a supply zone because there's sellers taking over this. Where do we see that? And there's that gap I was talking about. So right here, this is a minor support. We can easily retest and fill some gaps. Actually, we gotta fill the gaps, right? So when we back tested and retested today, we filled this gap right here on the 4-hour. Okay, so some minor support there. We can actually retest this area again if the market turns. So if you want to buy this one for long, you just want to see if it retests out areas of resistance. We have built a really strong area right here, so I'm thinking that the line in sand, if you want to go short, maybe we can fill this area right here. So between 77, it's like the 77.40 area and 70.50. Could test that area, but it's just too small because this stock can move a lot in one day. I think it moves like $3 in one day, so let's check. Yeah, so it can move $2.50 one day, so it can move a lot. So we can actually kind of pierce through this and like test this upper wick. So maybe like we're just gonna move it up a bit. So oops, gotta make that purple. So we can just test this area right here. We're gonna make like 76.35 and 78.23. So that kind of is reasonable. We can actually test that. So if we test right here, we bounce. I look to buy in this area for a bounce play. If you're short, you want to bounce. You want to like look for the top of a rejection, and then you're gonna short this, and because there's a lot of space for this to go down, to fill some gaps. The best gap you want to look for. I mean, if the market turns, I don't know. It's election season, so Trump may try to do something to keep the markets propped up. The last one on the list for homework is Expedia. Again, I have all these drawn out, so I already know that this to me is a short because we rejected this upper zone right here. But I'm going to do this one from scratch again, so let's do that because then they'll help you a lot when you kind of start drawing these. So I feel kind of bad because I trade this a lot, but okay, so always want to start on the monthly, and Expedia is one of those stocks that it's been around for a while, so it's we can trace back. Oops. We can trace back to areas that we can identify that are valid zones. So we're going to make this blue again. So this is a zone right here because look at how we bounced off in this area in 2009, 2012, and 2013 before we moved higher. This is a zone right here because we had consolidation and also rejected right here. And then this right here is another zone. So these candles right here are valid. So right here, this is another big zone. So I'm just starting the monthly. I'm not doing anything different. I'm just establishing areas of support and resistance. I'm just drawing where we have topped out, and then we bounced, and it creates a area basically where we had buyers and sellers. In this case, we did have buyers and sellers in this area, 45 area on EXPE in the March 2020 crash. And then we're gonna go into the weekly time frame. Oh, I have to mark this as all-time highs. I'll do that later. So weekly, we're going back on the weekly, and now we're gonna be looking back, and then we're trying to figure out like right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw a green line, so that is the support and resistance, because right here in this area right here, we tapped this area 1, 2, 3 times before we sold off into the monthly support before we back tested and moved back up, and it now acts as a support. This was a resistance, this is now support. So now we're going back and we're trying to find areas again. So let's see. This area right here, this is a strong area because we back tested and consolidated before we pushed up. And then we bounced. We got another one really strong right here in this area, because how many times we touched this area and we bounced off. I mean, this to me, this is really strong, because we bounced off here and then we back tested so many times. Buyers were here, and there's also where sellers were there, because they're right here right now. They're trying to sell into this area. Another zone I see is this area. So we're just gonna move down a bit. So we see this area right here as a support and a resistance. So when we were here, the multiple times we failed to break all-time highs, we rejected, and then now look, we made all-time highs right here in 2017. So that's cool. So this area right here is another strong area because this acted as support one time, but now it is resistance. So now we have a idea that this is a really strong area as a zone because there's a lot of resistance. So, and then on the daily time frame, we want to make this as a zone. This is a weekly zone, so we have a lot of resistance there. So we're just going back, and then we're just looking at this, and where we tapped right here, that acts as a zone. Because one thing I always look at is there's a lot of consolidation before we push. And when you look for zones, you always look for buyers and sellers, and a lot of consolidation. And that's how I trade. It's like I'm always looking for consolidations on the weekly time frame and the daily time frame. And I always want to see the direction because I don't like trading chop. So on a daily time frame, we kind of see that we're right here. We're going to establish that. We're going to make this red. And then right here is the resistance. And we have another one right here, because this acted as a consolidation area. We have fought. You have buyers and sellers right here before we pushed up. And then we just consolidated around this area. So now we're going on the 4-hour chart, and this is where I want to see, an area where people were buying and selling. So automatically it kind of knew that this area on the 4-hour is a really strong zone. Area that we could not break out because the multiple times we were there, it got rejected. So we're going to establish this as a supply zone on EXPE, and then we're going to be looking for buyers. So where can we find buyers? Well, first thing I look for is this a buy area? And I don't think this is a good buy area because we broke below this, and so I'm always going to look for areas where we can retest. So we can actually retest for sure in this area on the 4-hour. So this is going to be a 4-hour. So the zone, this yellow zone right there, that's pretty strong. We actually can short this all the way down this area. So there's a lot of space for this. And so the EMMAs are about to cross in the 4-hour. So you have the 8 and 20 and the 50 EMMA. They're about to cross to make another def hook on that. And when we get the confirmation from the date, the 4-hour and the 200 EMA in red, on the 4-hour, that is a trend change. That is a bearish reversal. On the hourly chart, you always want to look, and it's about to cross. And you also notice the volume right here. That volume candle, that is huge. So, that's something you always want to look for. And if you want to look to areas to cover, like smaller areas, look at previous resistances. So you're gonna look on the 4-hour chart, and then you're gonna try to scooch it up, or you're gonna go and try to find it. So just to get an idea. So I'm just gonna find it. So alright, so I think I'm just gonna check real quick. 93. Look for whole numbers, like 90 is a good area to cover your short position. Just whole numbers. So, but if you're looking to buy, this is a good area to buy because you have a lot of buyers waiting to just load up right here for a long. So, and this right now looks bearish to me. So if I draw a trend line, and then I'm drawing it like this, so I'm just drawing it straight down like that from the top of this candle to trying to touch multiple candles at a time. It's touching here, touching here. Maybe it hasn't touched here because we gapped down, but I'm also trying to find support. So I usually draw the bottom right here where we broke out, just to draw a channel here and here. You can also draw on the 4-hour chart. You can draw this regression trend. So we just want to go back like that. So we're just going to draw a top of this channel and then do like that. So we just try to see confluence in those areas. So that's about it. That's covering homework. Hope you guys enjoyed the homework. I know there's a lot of people who sent me the charts and try to understand this method. I don't know how to do Elliott waves. I just know that if it just touches this zone, I'm just gonna be buying and selling. I just think it's simply like that. I know Elliott wave is more of ATM trades way and a few others, but it just confuses me. So I just prefer this method, and I just don't have to overthink that much. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoy your weekend.